What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all having a wonderful evening. We have a big Sunday night matchup tomorrow between the Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what would be a Sunday night matchup without the Saturday Night Tailgate? I'm coming back to you with Buffalo Bills beat reporter Muki Hawkins, sports director at WUFO 1080. Muki, as always, how's it going, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. It's holiday season. Bills are in the giving mood to spread some holiday cheer around.
Holiday cheer. And hey, he is a beat reporter for what seems to be all the sports in Pittsburgh. And I'm pleased to have him on the show tonight. Thank you for giving us your time tonight. Alan Saunders, I believe it's Saunders, right?
Yeah, you got it.
So Alan Saunders. Alan, thank you for giving us your time. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you have a ton of insight you can provide for us for this Pittsburgh Steelers team that I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions out there. There's a lot of people who have varying thoughts, varying feelings, varying amounts of comfort as to how good this team really is. Where do you stand on this team, and how legitimate of an 11-1 football team they really are?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're good. Like let's just start there. Like you can't get to 11-1 without being at least pretty good, no matter what. No matter how good of the opponent you play, no matter how good you look while you're doing it, you got to be at least pretty good to get to 11-1. I do think there are some legitimate concerns about the way the offense is played, especially recently. It feels like some teams have figured them out a little bit in terms of the short passing game. And I think there's legitimate questions as to how many significant injuries the defense can continue to overcome. They already were dealing with a season-long injury to Devin Bush at inside linebacker. Now they're without Bud Dupree at outside linebacker. Robert Spillane, who had replaced Bush, is also out. Just got put on the injured reserve list today. Joe Hayden has a concussion. It's not the same Steelers defense that was kind of terrorizing some teams. I think back to them really roughing up Cleveland, 6 weeks ago. It's not the same Steelers team right now. So are they good? Sure. You have to be good to be 11-1. Are they what I call them a Super Bowl favorite? Like you might think you would call an 11-1 team? I'm not so sure. I think we'll learn a lot this Sunday night.
Yeah. For the most part, it's kind of seemed like this match, it's kind of like a deja vu from last year. The Bills, they win this game. They clinch the playoffs. I guess it's the same scenario if that was the case tomorrow night. But, those what ifs and, things of that nature. What if Ben Roethlisberger would have played? So you still have all those little caveats that's going to be building up to game time. Steelers are 11-1. They're doing a phenomenal job on the offense. The defense is, pretty much they own every blitzing statistical category there is in the NFL right now. But on the flip side of that, the Bills are one of the best at, against that. So, you got a lot of caveats that's going to be, that you would like to see, but it's definitely going to be something to see up front, something I know you love very much, Clay.
Oh, yeah. This matchup really, I think it really comes down to the front for not only the Pittsburgh Steelers, but also the Buffalo Bills. Now, Alan, I was wondering if you could possibly shine some light on what it's really been like without having their supplemental pass rusher, that being Bud Dupree. You kind of alluded to it there in your opening sentiment. Having those three big bodies with Cam Hayward, with Stephon Tuitt, and Tyson Alualu, and then combining that with TJ Watt, that's deadly in itself. But I don't know. It never hits the same when you don't have that other presence on the other side. Now, Bud Dupree is no TJ Watt, but he is definitely a quality, productive pass rusher in the National Football League. Do you think the Pittsburgh pass rush is kind of tapered off a little without the presence of Bud Dupree opposite TJ Watt?
Well, yeah, I think they've only had one game without Bud, and they were not. I don't know. They got some sacks against Washington on Monday night. I think they had 3, but they were not consistently getting pressure and consistently disrupting the timing of Alex Smith, especially with his ability to find guys that you might generally consider second options. It was a lot of passes to guys like McKissick out of the backfield and Logan Thomas. So those are timing plays when you're thinking about, a tight end in short and a running back, kind of leaking out. They weren't able to get there fast enough to disrupt those plays. When they got Washington in third and longs and in obvious passing situations, they were able to get home. But I just feel like, the pass rush definitely was missing something. Now, listen, they played all last season without that guy right there. Stephon Tuitt, he missed most of the last season, and they were able to replace him. Will they be able to do that without Bud Dupree? I guess we'll see. The guy who's going to try to fill those shoes is a rookie. Alex Highsmith was drafted in the 3rd round out of Charlotte. They like his versatility of pass rush moves. They think he brings a lot to the table in that regard. But he's not very experienced. He only, played about 90 snaps or something like that coming into this game of outside linebacker. And so it's really an unknown as to how well he's going to be able to fill those shoes and how much going forward the loss of Bud Dupree is going to hurt the Steelers' pass rush. And that pass rush is, the Steelers' secondary has great numbers. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been outstanding at free safety. But if you kind of look at those other guys, Joe Hayden's been around a while. The Chiefs let Steven Nelson go before last season. Terrell Edmonds, he's a good player. I wouldn't call him a Pro Bowler. I think the secondary was made good because of that pass rush. And so, to me, it's a two-pronged thing. Can the pass rush replace Bud Dupree? And can the secondary hold up if the Steelers' pass rush is chasing quarterbacks all over the place?
Yeah, you definitely got that right, because Josh Allen is a guy that loves to get out of the pocket. And for some reason, I don't know how people don't understand how accurate Josh Allen is when he's out of the pocket. I thought that was something that he was, something one of his strong suit as far as accuracy coming out of Wyoming. So, that does pose a problem, But another guy like Avery Williamson, they end up making the trade for Avery. He's going to, basically get the nod. But, with those issues coming off the edge and with the issue at linebacker, where do they see Williamson fit? More so on the inside, or how they fixed on the edge?
So Williamson is going to probably start at inside linebacker. They lost Devin Bush for the year. They had Ulysses Gilbert, who's one of the top backups. He's been out since November 4th. He just came off the injured reserve, so he's going to come back for this game, but he's only practiced 3 days since coming back from a back injury. So no idea how much he's going to be. I don't know if he's going to be on a snap count or what, but I'd expect Williamson to start at one spot. And then Marcus Allen, who they've been in the process of converting to inside linebacker from safety, is probably going to start at the other spot. Very depleted depth at inside linebacker. Vince Williams just got put on the COVID list. So they're really down to, really options 4, 5, and 6 at inside linebacker right now. To me, if I was Pittsburgh defensive coordinator Keith Butler, the thing that would be really keeping me up at night right now is keeping contain on Josh Allen, because could be a really long day for those inside linebackers if he's able to get free and get running. And then Singletary out of the backfield is also a significant threat that those guys are going to be responsible for. Yeah,
it's going to be quite the matchup. And you look at Pittsburgh, their record is 11-1. They just suffered their last loss, but it's kind of like been on a down spiral of who gets better, who basically stays the same. And right now you see, I think with James Conner, going out, I think that kind of like hindered the offense a little bit, because pretty much that's what Pittsburgh hang their hat on. That smash mouth style of running, and then that sets up the pass. But nevertheless, more or less, has been pretty much empty. They've been relying on empty sets, a lot of empty sets to get the job done out there. A bulk of their touchdowns as of late has been really coming off that empty set. So it's going to be real interesting to see how the Bills counter that. Do they, double up and send some pressure on that backside to put that tackle in the bind, or, do they lag off? And with the weapons that the Steelers have offensively, I don't think the Bills will want to do that, So, we'll have to see what happens. Will they be able to get things going now that Conner is back? And then how will the Bills fare when they do go empty?
Yeah. Al, I'm wondering how you're feeling about not having Joe Hayden in this game. because the Steelers without Joe Hayden. I watched the Redskins game last week. I mean, it was right before the Bills game, so I watched Mike Hilton, and he looked pretty good. He looks like a fairly serviceable backup cornerback that, can be relied upon when put in a spot. But do you think he's the guy that is going to be paired up with Stephon Diggs, or do you think Minka's going to be following him on the back end wherever he goes?
Well, I don't know. So they're getting Steven Nelson back, who did not play last week against Washington. He missed that game with a knee injury. So they're getting him back. He would be if somebody's going to follow Diggs around, to me, it will be Nelson. But, the Bills use so many receivers in so many different formations that I doubt that the Steelers are going to have anybody follow him. To me, it's probably going to be a kind of all hands on deck situation. Cam Sutton will move from the dime corner to the starting outside corner to replace Joe Hayden, and then they'll leave Hilton in the slot. So I think, to me, the Steelers are going to line up with those three guys, and even though Hilton's not a quote-unquote starter as the nickel guy, he plays more snaps than almost anybody else in the defense. So really, I think the Steelers are going to put those three guys out there with Minkah behind them and Terrell Edmunds, probably on the border of the box as the extra safety, and then see where Buffalo lines up and try to cover them. I don't expect them to try to follow Diggs around. Hayden and Sutton really shut down Terry McLaurin last week, and impressively had 2 catches for 14 yards. If they can do that to Stephon Diggs, I really like their chances in this game. But he's a different kind of receiver, and I think Josh Allen is a different kind of quarterback. I think Washington wanted to call many 7-step drops for Alex Smith against the Steelers pass rush. I think Buffalo will be a lot more willing to take those kind of chances to move the ball down the field in big chunks.
Yeah, that's the key, but it might be a little windy, might be a little wet.
When is it? I've never been to Buffalo where it wasn't at least a little bit windy or wet or cold or snow. One of those.
No, I remember it was a lot of snow on the ground, and Le'Veon Bell ran for over 200 yards. I still remember that. But nevertheless, it's going to be a good game, a game that that definitely has playoff implications, something that you may see somewhere down the line. Come AFC Championship talk. Who knows? But I think this is some good matchups down the stretch late in the season that'll help both teams, get a little bit more prepared, for that playoff push. But it's definitely going to see where we are, as an upper echelon, contender here. And, it's definitely going to see where Pittsburgh at in reference to, how are they addressing going into the playoffs, by the way that they're playing as of late. So, Sunday night, it's going to be quite the matchup.
Yeah, both these teams really match up extremely well. We've been talking about, the kind of the injuries that are plaguing the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, but let's switch over to their offense because they really do get 2 key players on that side of the ball back this week in James Conner and Marquise Pouncey. Let's talk about Conner a little bit first. James Conner, Muki kind of alluded to it. It kind of derailed their whole plan without James Conner. I understand this team has struggled running the football really ever since Le'Veon Bell has left these last 3 seasons. But losing James Conner at this stage of the season, you're really seeing Ben's usage go up. Do you think, Alan, that Ben can't really keep the amount of passes that he's attempting a game? Do you think that's kind of sustainable for where he's at in his career? Or do you think that having James Conner back at this point in the season, that could really almost possibly rejuvenate Ben's arm or rejuvenate this offense, if you will, to kind of, get ready for a playoff surge or, just change their offense and how they've been almost one-dimensional as of late?
Yeah, I think the last thing is the big thing. The last thing you touched on there is that I think Ben could throw the ball 50 times a game and be fine. That he's not getting hit. They're protecting him at an elite level. They lead the league in sacks allowed per game as an offensive line with less than 1 on average, 0.8. But their offense isn't working that way because they're not, like I talked about with Washington, they're not calling 7-step drops. They're trying to protect Roethlisberger from getting hit a lot. And so it's just been a bunch of short passes. And I think their offense has gotten one-dimensional without being able to add James Conner to it. If you look at what Baltimore did in that game a week ago Wednesday, weirdly. They were putting outside linebackers out on top of the Steelers' bunch formations to disrupt people's timing. Well, from an offensive standpoint, if you're going to move your outside linebackers out the box, you should be able to hand off and get 4 yards, at least, maybe 5 or 6. But the Steelers weren't able to take advantage of those situations in the running game. And if you can't make a team pay for doing that to you by running it up the middle on them, then they're going to keep doing it. And until the Steelers do something about that, I assume teams are going to keep doing it. So maybe with Connor back, Pouncey back, maybe they'll be more able to keep those linebackers tight to the formation because of the threat of Connor running the ball. Maybe Pouncey, with him in there, will feel a little more comfortable taking more deep shots because he'll be able to give Ben more time. But they've got to do something other than throwing 50 short passes a game. It's clear that's not going to work from what's happened the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, because they getting that empty formation, man. Then you got a couple slants. You got like a 20-yard curl. Then you got one going fly. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be up to the Bills to try to decipher who's who and what's what on any given moment. How that's portrayed. But it's gonna be quite interesting to see where the heat is gonna come. If they're gonna line up in that empty set, and just how Alan said, it's more or less quick game, but it's one guy that's going to blow the top off of it. And, they got to match up. I'm quite sure they're going to be trying to match Levi Wallace up quite a bit with that deep threat guy because, basically that's going to be, our weakness per se on that back end when it comes to coverage. Teams are not going to play around with Trey White too much. They're going to play a lot with Levi Wallace and the rest of the guys out there. So that's going to be another thing to watch. See if they're going to probably have Claypool one-on-one with Levi Wallace, a big, strong, physical guy that's fast. And then, Levi Wallace, he's rangy, but he really doesn't carry the size. I mean, he really don't carry the size. So, that's going to be something to watch. Claypool versus Levi Wallace tomorrow, especially when they're in that empty set. I want to see who's going to be the deep threat guy. I do believe that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the guy that can run. He can run all the routes, and I think that's going to be a good safety valve for Ben, short to intermediate, because that's a guy that he pretty much can trust when the game is on the line or you need that big player, that third down converter. I'm quite sure, he's going to be looking Juju Smith-Schuster's way. So real interesting to see. The Bills have been playing well as of late on third down. So, those are it's just some intriguing matchups, man. You want to have Pittsburgh in a third and long situation, because if they get their run game going, Ben is still one of the nastiest guys in play action. You don't get a lot of credit for it, but he's still one of the nastiest in play action. So, it's going to be a real good game of chess. I can't wait to see these matchups. I can't wait to see, what's really going to go on in the trenches, and it's going to be a great game Sunday night, prime time.
And Muki, you touched on the trenches there at the end of your point, and so did Alan as well, touching on how the Steelers allow the least amount of sacks in the NFL. And Alan, I don't know how extensive your knowledge is of the turbulences of the season for the Bills, if you will, but earlier in the season, the problem that the Bills were having, because this was a defense for the last couple of years that was really predicated on letting the front four get their work in and get the pressure themselves, and then let those guys in the back end make plays as a result of the pressure that the front four can generate. And you don't really have to manufacture it all, sending your linebackers and what have you. But as of late, the Bills have taken on this much more aggressive personality, aggressive identity on that side of the ball, sending guys like A.J. Klein with more regularity, sending guys like Tremaine Edmonds with more regularity. I really feel like if the Bills can find success on that side of the ball, it's going to have to come from manufactured pressure. And touching on how good this offensive line has been in protecting Ben this season, and combining that with the fact that James Conner's coming back and defending the run has kind of been the Bills defense's Achilles heel they've had their issues, they've had their ups and downs. San Francisco averaged over 6 yards per carry last week when they ran the ball, and they kind of got played out of being able to run the ball. So I think you could end up seeing the Steelers run the ball more often this game than you have as of late. And, that could potentially open the door, like you said, Muki, to the play action Ben. And that's really where the matchups come into play. And I'm interested to know, who do you think on this Bills defense is possibly the biggest liability in coverage facing up against? Because I don't really know who the best wide receiver on this team is. I don't, because Juju's good. Chase Claypool, though, he's some next level stuff. That kid's going to be a stud. Deontay Johnson is pretty good, and so is James Washington. You guys have 4 wide receivers that can take a bulk of the snaps, a bulk of the targets, and whatever, and it's seamless transition, it seems like. Who do you think on this offense has the best matchup and could potentially have the biggest day?
I actually might say none of the above. I think it might be Eric Ebron. I think the Bills linebackers are pretty good moving forward. I think they can be beaten in coverage, and Ebron's super athletic. The thing that's been holding him back, and it's kind of been the story of his career at times, has been hold on to the football. He had a really blatant bad drop with his sort of chest to the quarterback, the ball right in here at him last Monday, and that's kind of been the thing for these short passes. If you're going to run the offense like that, they got to hold on to the ball. Ebron and Johnson have both had some trouble holding on to the ball, but I really like his matchup, especially like Muki was saying, if the Steelers do go empty, they'll put him all the way out on the outside, all the way to the boundary, and make a linebacker go out there all the way in space where he's not comfortable or not used to being. And then they can take advantage of that, I think. So I think Ebron presents a significant mismatch in the passing game. And I think Chase Claypool, almost against any corner in the league, is just a problem from a combination of size and speed. He's just freakishly fast for how big he is. He's still working on kind of the body control to be able to make those contested combat catches that a guy like that is probably going to need to make in order to be somebody's consistent deep threat. But the one thing he's already done really well is the only way to cover him is to hold on to him, because he's too big and too strong for most guys to run down the field with. And so he draws a ton of pass interference penalties. Just for a rookie, it's actually an obscene amount. I can't imagine what's going to happen 3 or 4 years. This guy becomes a Pro Bowl receiver with a reputation. Flag's going to be out all the time. But he's already done that many times where it's just, jump ball down the sideline and he just gets tackled. And so I think that's tough too. I like the Bills corners doing defending what the Steelers like to do. I think they'll be able to stand up and run with guys in those short range passes. I think the Steelers are going to have to throw the ball deep at least a little bit in order to open up that coverage and bring that slant game back, whether it's Johnson or Juju inside.
Right. And then, you took the words right out of my mouth with Ebron, because, nobody's talking about him. And the Bills, early in the season, they did struggle against tight ends. Matt Milano was normally the guy that, would go out there and check those tight ends. He's finally back healthy. That's another intriguing matchup. Do they flex? Do Matt Milano go out there, and cover Ebron? That's another intriguing matchup. I like that matchup right there. So, it's a lot of intriguing matchups. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have to guess right, as well as Josh Allen. He's going to have to guess right. But just to piggyback one more time, Alan, about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the receivers, and they've been, dealing with a lot of drops as of late. I know they were saying that, they blamed it on the jugs machine. They went, out there throwing the ball with Ben, getting, those type of reps. So they blamed it on the jugs machine. What do you blame it on?
I blame it on throwing the ball 50 times a game. You throw the ball that much, you're going to have a lot of drops. I do think that, and the other thing they've been doing a lot this year is they've been throwing the ball 1 and 2 yards downfield, and then expecting guys like Johnson and Juju and James Washington to make a play with their feet. Like they're throwing 0 and 1 yard routes on these tunnels, middle screens, slants, and they don't want 1 yard. They want those guys to catch the ball and then turn upfield and beat a guy or make a guy miss. And to me, that puts a lot of pressure on the receiver. They've got to almost think about what they're going to do with their body before they've got the ball secured. There's not that much time and space in there. And so I think they're just putting those guys in a tough situation, especially they've been doing it on 3rd down a lot. I've never seen a team throw the ball short of the sticks intentionally on third down so many times. The Steelers will do it at least once or twice a game where they'll be throwing this middle of the field screen almost to have the other receivers come block for, usually it's Deontay Johnson coming across the field. And I really do think that puts a lot of pressure on those guys. And I think that's what's caused some of those drops. And yeah, I mean, but if you, outside of Johnson and Ebron, I think the rest of the guys have done a pretty nice job of holding on to the ball. Those are the two players where if you look at the percentage rate of their drops, per target are a little bit elevated. I think the rest of the guys, it's just a matter of the fact that they're throwing the ball so much.
All right. And how is Juju targeted in all of this? It seems like it's okay. He's the number one? At times it don't seem like he's the number one guy. You know what I mean? Like I get it because Josh Allen is one of the most unselfish quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But how the dynamic and how it's landscape, you would figure that Juju would, be leading in targets or, just be that pure number one to get the ball all over the place. That I just don't see that happening within the offense now. Does that contribute to drops and, not getting proper reps and things of that nature?
Well, it could. I mean, I think Juju is the most sure-handed of all the receivers, for sure. Like, so the more the ball goes to him, I think the less it's going to get dropped, period. I think he also has an incredible catch radius too. He's got long arms and he's a pretty athletic guy. He can get up there for how big he is. And so it doesn't have to be, if you look at James Washington or Deontay Johnson, their catch radius, just because of their physical size, is significantly less than a guy like Juju. And so I think that's yeah, if I was worried about the Steelers receivers dropping the ball, I'll throw it to Juju more, for sure. But he doesn't get that kind of number one receiver target treatment, and he hasn't all year. And he didn't really last year either. Now, obviously, it was a weird year for the Steelers offense with Ben out, but you would think, backup quarterback would have a tendency to have a safety blanket and just go with the number one guy and throw it to him as often as he's open. And really with Juju's size, he doesn't even need to be all that open to justify throwing the ball to him, but they have not force-fed him targets, and he hasn't complained about it either. So as far as I'm concerned, I guess it's going to continue, but I think maybe you might see a little more of him this week just because of those drops, especially with those drops coming from Ebron and Johnson. And Mike Tomlin said it out loud this week. Our receivers are going to catch the ball or somebody else is going to get it thrown to them. So to me, that could be a signal that the more sure-handed Juju might be in line for a bigger role in the offense this week.
Yeah, I think that coincides with him potentially having the biggest matchup or mismatch, I should say, for the Steelers offense, potentially being paired up with Bills nickel cornerback Teron Johnson. But kind of a side talking point, I know some Bills fans might not really care about this, but I love talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, not necessarily because I love him as a player, just because of how much he's polarizing. Because anytime we're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, I can't help but think about the whole Antonio Brown thing from a couple years ago, and you look at his production ever since Brown left, and there's arguments to be made. And with that, I gotta ask you, being a Pittsburgh guy, Alan, do you think the Steelers re-sign Juju at the end of this year?
No, I don't. I think if they were going to sign him, they would have before this season. Maybe the only way I could see it happening is a franchise tag. I don't expect them to sign him to a long-term deal. They generally have not spent a lot of money on wide receivers in the past. And when they have, they've been pretty selective about how they went about it. And we've just gotten done talking about how they have this sort of plethora of options. And there's honestly too many receivers for the ball. Now, I think Juju's the best of them, but he also happens to be the guy whose contract is coming up. And so it doesn't really seem to me, if you look at the Steelers team and their needs as they go into this offseason, where they are just losing guys everywhere. Connor's a free agent. Left tackle Alejandro Villanueva is a free agent. And so there's big issues there as far as guys that could be leaving. And I'm missing a couple more that I think. Dupree, who's playing on the franchise tag this year until he got hurt. what's going to be the situation there. There's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with this team in the offseason. I think even without Juju, you'd be able to say they've got pretty good wide receivers lined up for 2021. And so to me, I think that makes it pretty unlikely that they're going to re-sign him, even though, like we talked about with the Antonio Brown stuff, I think they love Juju. I think they'd love to have him back. He's been a great guy from a locker room standpoint. There's no complaints. I just think, with the talent they have around him, a wide receiver, and the other guys whose contracts are also up, he might be a guy they feel like they can afford to lose.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And the only reason I bring that up is because a couple weeks ago, I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I see somebody that I don't know what your thoughts on Hines Ward are, but I loved Hines Ward. Hines Ward was probably one of my favorite players that wasn't in a Bills jersey. Just the attitude and that he approached the game with, everything. The nasty he had, and somebody was comparing Juju to Hines Ward. And I think it was something because it was on Sunday Night Football. I think it was a couple weeks ago when they were on Sunday Night Football, and Hines Ward had something to do with the game or whatever. But I don't know. I've always felt like Juju, he's kind of overrated. I've always had that impression. Don't get me wrong. I think if he hits the open market this offseason, which I'm assuming he will, if he hits the open market, he's going to get paid. I'm not necessarily going to say get paid like a wide receiver one, but he is going to get paid. But then again, I look at his numbers. I look at his production from the last couple of years. Obviously, injuries play a part in that. Having more mouths to feed in the offense plays a part in that. But you look at what the Steelers do with that wide receiver position. They've kind of set the precedent for the NFL and how to manage a wide receiving core while you have a quarterback that you're paying a lot of money to. You draft a wide receiver every year. I mean, first it was Holmes, then it was Wallace, then it was oh goodness, I know I'm forgetting somebody in there, but then there was Brown, and then
Emmanuel Sanders and Brown came in the same year.
Then Emmanuel Sanders. There was they draft very well at that position all throughout the entire draft. It doesn't matter if it's first round, second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round, sixth round. They are finding guys every single year in these draft classes, and that's how you end up with 4 wide receivers who you can depend on throughout the game, and you're in a position where you can let a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster walk in the offseason, who, I mean, he walks into a lot of buildings right now, he's wide receiver 1. He walks into the Jets right now, he's wide receiver 1. And here he is on the Steelers, and it's like, the room's a little crowded. We don't need him. He can go elsewhere. So, you look at the whole reason I bring this up is because you look at how this Bills offense runs, and you look at the wide receivers they have for Josh Allen. I understand John Brown isn't suiting up for this football game, but when he's back, they have 4 wide receivers that are capable of going out there and being relied upon. I look at what the Steelers did, and I kind of hope that the Bills take that blueprint and apply it to themselves. They drafted Gabe Davis last year. They drafted Isaiah Hodgins last year. I want to see them draft wide receivers every single year. I think you should draft a corner and you should draft a wide receiver every single draft class just to keep that position stocked. You have a guy that you scouted, you liked, for whatever reason, you have him in the building, he knows your playbook, and you go from there. And the Steelers, they're a good franchise. They're an excellent organization. With Colbert, I think they really kind of established the precedent at that position, really, when having a high market quarterback under contract for such a long time like Big Ben has.
Yeah, I think they've really got it right when it comes to how to maximize your chances with a franchise quarterback. You got to put weapons around him, especially, we've seen a lot of these, recent years. Some teams have won the Super Bowl and they've had a quarterback that was on his rookie contract, whether it was Mahomes or Carson Wentz. I mean, he didn't win the Super Bowl, but he got him there. It's relatively easy to build a Super Bowl team if you can have a quarterback on his rookie contract that can play at that level, right? You have lots of money to play with. You start having to pay multiple-time All-Pro quarterbacks free agent salary type money, it gets difficult real fast. And I think the Steelers have done it as well as just about anybody outside of New England in terms of being able to continue to put weapons around Ben Roethlisberger throughout his career without breaking the bank on those guys and robbing from the team in other places. And I think that's really the key. Is there's no point in paying $30 million a year for a quarterback if you don't give him talented guys to throw the ball to. But you need an offensive line, and you need quality defenders at every position in order to be able to make the Super Bowl, even with a Ben Roethlisberger. And I think the Steelers have done a really good job of that. They kind of got burned by availability a few times. They had those years with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and I think they played one playoff game with Ben, Bell, and Brown all healthy together in that stretch, and probably underperformed in the postseason as a result of it. But I think from a process standpoint, if you're talking about evaluating the general manager, I think they've done about as good a job as anyone could have done.
Yeah.
You've been a Pittsburgh guy for a long time, and I want to know, what in Josh Allen? What do you see a little young Big Ben in Josh Allen? Because that I understand why people make the comparison and people say those sorts of things, and it's mostly national media guys. Oh, he's baby Big Ben. He's baby Big Ben. He's this. He's that. And I see the comparative skills or traits, if you will. But I think Josh Allen, I think he has a little more to him potentially. What are your real thoughts about Josh Allen? I'm not really sure what your thoughts were going into the draft and what Josh Allen has been, but what are your thoughts on Josh Allen as a prospect and how he's progressed in his NFL career?
Actually, I have a friend of mine who used to work in the Pittsburgh market who covers Wyoming now, and so I knew a good bit about Josh Allen before he got to the league. And I don't know. I see the comparison. I see the reasons for it. I think they're slightly different players. First of all, Ben never ran like Josh Allen.
Right. Right.
Not even when he was young and spry did Ben run like Josh Allen runs now. I mean, he is probably, maybe if you go back, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years, I think there's probably no quarterback in football that isn't a running quarterback that's been harder to bring down in the pocket than Ben Roethlisberger. And I think you see that kind of toughness from the quarterback position. And I think that's a pretty rare trait. And I think that's why so many people want to make the comparison, right? You see Josh Allen go and take on linebackers one-on-one. People are like, quarterbacks don't do that. I mean, Lamar Jackson runs around them and makes them look stupid, but none of them are trying to break that tackle, except for Josh Allen and Ben. Now, they do it very different ways. Roethlisberger kind of, just he's more about staying in the pocket and staying upright to make a throw. He's not really going to run for yardage. He's not even really looking to get out on the edge of the pocket. But I just think the toughness is the thing to me that brings people back to that comparison, because that is such – you think about the star quarterback, and he's got his perfect hair, and he's just he's well protected by his offensive line, and he's probably a little upset if he gets a little bit dirty. And those two guys are just the farthest thing from that, and they play in these blue collar towns whose fan bases just absolutely eat that up. And so I can understand why people make the comparison. I'm not sure they're as similar if you break them down from what they do best, X's and O's standpoint, but I just think the personality is pretty well dead on.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get all those type of comparisons because the measurables. You go from anywhere from Big Ben to Cam Newton. Is it the stretch to say John Elway? I mean, John Elway coming out of Stanford had the big arm. He was probably one of the first mobile quarterbacks. All people talked about how he could able to extend plays with his legs and then heave that sucker 40, 50 yards downfield. There's a lot of comparisons now that you see the development, the true development that everybody was, had the potential to see coming out of Wyoming, So now you got to revisit those comparisons coming out of college to see, what his traits is. But you did hit on a good point, Alan. That tough trait is hard to find in quarterbacks. The last quarterback that had that tough trait in Buffalo was Jim Kelly. And he can win you ball games, in the clutch, and he's tough. That's one thing I love about having a quarterback. 6'4", 240 pounds, isn't bad either. But just the overall dynamic and the makeup of the Bills the past 3 years under Sean McDermott's and Brandon Beam's regime. How impressed to see how they thrive, as an organization, how they change the culture and be able to be successful in such a short period of time. I know Pittsburgh, y'all been successful for eons, decades, traditionally, but to see that success in Buffalo, at a rapid pace and, how impressed were you to see that from a top to bottom standpoint?
To me, I think the most impressive thing about what Buffalo has done has been the ability to find really quality players in the draft, not necessarily, always picking with they didn't have that like one guy, like 5 years in a row like that. Like they weren't, they didn't have that like bottom out, just flat out terrible lead up to this. Like there's some first round picks in there that are mid round picks that turn into be really good players. There's some there's third and fourth round picks that I, really like. I like Zach Moss a lot. I like AJ Epinesa a lot. There's players in there that just really, to me, fit the scheme too. I think sometimes you see teams that'll have these draft grades where, there's this real all the scouts loved all these players, but then you put them together on the field and sometimes the sum doesn't add up. And I feel like what Buffalo is trying to do, a lot of the pieces add up. I still feel like there's some significant holes still that they've had to fill in with some guys from outside the organization, but they also seem to have hit on that. I mean, the Diggs trade was perfect. And some of the other guys they've brought in have done really good. So, I think they did a really good job of building a foundation. Or you look up and down this team, most of these guys that are contributing at a high level are recent draft picks or guys that this group has brought in really in 3 years. I mean, that's a rapid rebuild for an NFL team, and I think they've done a really good job of it.
Yeah, I had the nickname Brandon Bean. I had to call him the burglar, man, because he be stealing in the draft, man. And he stole another guy late, from Pittsburgh. Dane Jackson, man, is doing quite well to be a 7th round pick. So, what's your take on, Dane in Pittsburgh and, how has he blossomed in the NFL?
Man, I've been watching Dane Jackson play football for a long time. Mm-hmm. So he played at Quaker Valley High School, which is just to the west of Pittsburgh. And he was just an athlete. He never played defensive back as far as I watched him. They played like some kind of hybrid safety spot. He was the quarterback or the running back. And he came to Pitt and took a redshirt year and really just learned the position of cornerback at that point. That was really the first time where he got in the lab and really began to put it on. And I was working for one of our suburban newspapers here outside of Pittsburgh that's kind of on that side of the city. And I went out that redshirt year to do a story on just how he was doing, check in on the guy who you're not seeing on TV. And you could just tell that the light was coming on about what could happen with him at corner. And, he is not a guy where, you go to the combine, his athletic traits do not jump off the map. He's average height, average speed, but he understands the game at a really high level. And they put those corners in that defense at Pitt just purely on an island. They play quarters, which is cover 4, which means the corner has the outside quarter of the field, and it's got all the way from the line of scrimmage to the end zone, no help anywhere. It's just you and that dude. And I don't think there's a better training ground for learning how to play the position at a high level than that. You do it over and over again. And, yeah, I think Dane is one of those guys where maybe his physical traits kind of let him down in the draft process, but he's a smart kid. He understands the game really well. And I think that's a pretty significant draft steal for Buffalo. And I enjoyed covering Dane. He's a great dude. So be hoping to see him on the field and doing well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We were talking about the Wallace matchup earlier. I really hope we see Dane Jackson on the field tomorrow. I really do, because I think Dane Jackson, he could potentially be a little X factor in this game that people aren't really concerned about going into the game. But Alan, I'm not sure. Are you allowed to give predictions prior to the game, or do you have something set up where people have somewhere they can find you where they can look forward to that?
No, I can do whatever.
Okay.
I got there's no.
Who's winning this game? What's the score? Why? How's it gonna go?
Oh, see, man, I think this will be a lower scoring game than people might think. I think the Steelers are going to try to establish the run. And if Buffalo can't do what they did to San Francisco and score the Steelers out of it, I think that's what they're going to try to do. So I'm expecting a little bit of a lower scoring game. Conditions, the last forecast I saw didn't have anything nastier than a little bit of wind and cold, but still never super conducive for high scoring offense there up on the lake in December. And so I think probably a little bit lower scoring. And I expect this to be a game that's going to be won in the fourth quarter. I mean, I don't think either of these teams, even with the Steelers not playing great on offense right now, is really set up to pull away from somebody, because I think the Bills have some question marks on defense, and I think the Steelers have some question marks on offense. And so I think you're going to have kind of, the Bills offense and the Steelers defense, they both feel like they should be able to go win games. And the other two units are, I don't know right now. And so to me, I think it's the second matchup that decides it. If the Steelers can move the ball up and down the field with a running game and get some big plays, I think they'll win. But I think it's going to take another week to figure this out on offense. They did not have Ben Roethlisberger at practice the week between the Baltimore game and the Washington game. And so those two games, the offense did not play well, but they've really had 3 practice sessions to put together a fix to those problems and try to enact it into the game. They got Connor back midweek this week. They got Pouncey back midweek this week. Those guys are going to play, but they haven't been a full part of whatever the solution is going to be to these offensive problems. I think the Steelers' offensive fixes are at least one more week away, and I think the Bills win a close one. I'll say 24-21.
What? The opposing B reporter picked the Bills? That's like the first time that's happened. That's the first time that's happened. Even the Chargers guy picked the Chargers. My goodness.
No one can accuse me of being a homer, so that's good. I've got that.
Alan's pragmatic. I like that. I like that. That's awesome. That's awesome, Alan. Thank you for the insight you provided on this show. I really hope the Steelers and the Bills play again. I don't know how this game's going to go. It could be a great matchup. One team can get blown out. Who knows? But I hope the Bills play the Steelers again. Maybe we can get you back on the show for another Saturday Night Tailgate in the playoffs. Maybe it's the AFC Championship game. Maybe it's to go to the Super Bowl and we got a big-time game.
Maybe the Steelers draft Jarrett Patterson, and you guys can tell me all about the stud up at UBuff, because I like what I see there too.
Man, he's definitely doing his thing. They had him on a little pinch count because they took care of Akron, early. But 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, top 25. He's doing some big things right now. I kind of, when somebody told me that he's draft stock is a 7th round pick right now, I said, "Are you kidding me?" And this is coming from an agent now. I think that's changed drastically in the past couple of weeks, if that's the case. But hey, I see that you in the seating chart, man. So you getting on the bus with the crew tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm driving up. Me and my photographer drive up. Leave about 2 p.m, I guess, and then long night ahead of us.
Yep. Hey, give me a shout, man. I'll be in the building. But soon you touch down, man. Shoot me a holler, man.
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate
Al, before you get out of here, tell people where they can find you, all the articles, all the work that they have to look forward to when they do. I just want to be sure before you get out of here that the fans can you can get a plug into the fans, because thank you for coming on. The insight you provided, it was awesome. I would definitely be down to do it again, and I think you're a must follow for anybody that wants to stay plugged into the Pittsburgh Steelers or any Pittsburgh sports. Yeah, I cover a lot of them. So you find me on Twitter at @Saunders_PGH. And Steelers coverage is at SteelersNow.com, at PGH Steelers Now on Twitter. And then I also cover pretty much everything else that goes on in the city, Pitt, Duquesne, Robert Morris. I cover the soccer team and high school football and whatever else you want. So it's all on there. And Pittsburgh Sports Now is where you'll find kind of all the rest. And that's our father site of all of our others, and so that's where to get the good stuff. But yeah, that's where you can go find stories on Dane Jackson from when he was 19 years old.
Hey, another one I got another kid, Joseph Jamison. He's at Duquesne. I coached him too. I coached him since he was 6 all the way till he went to Canisius.
All right.
So
I haven't seen the Chiefs yet this year. They played twice, but it was on the road. I haven't got to see them yet.
Yeah. Mr. Suka. That's what we call him. Joseph Jameson. But Al, hey man, safe travels. And I definitely see you, prime time when it's game time. We can chop it up then.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep. Take care, Al. Muki.
Big Al.
Yeah, that was awesome. He was
some good talk from our cousins from down the street up in PA, Clay.
So I want to know. I want to kind of gauge what you're feeling. So, in order to just get a gauge, I love this game. The Steelers win. You tell me how the Steelers win, what needs to happen, and for the Steelers to win, then I'll give my analysis and say is what happens in order for the Steelers to win. But the Steelers win if what?
The Steelers win if they can get some success on the ground game early. If the Steelers found success in the run game early, then basically it's going to bring those guys up. And when you bring those guys up, that leaves you, in a bind. If Klein is out there matched up against Eric Ebron in a run action situation, then Eric Ebron could win that matchup. So it's going to really boil down to run game, Eric Ebron, and Levi Wallace. Those are the three keys right there to watch on the defensive side. Another caveat to watch for is, how well our Bills are going to be able to pick up the blitz, and will the Steelers have success when they blitz? That's a very intriguing matchup. Once again, Steelers are best on the defensive side when it comes to the blitz, and the Bills are one of the best on the offensive side of defending it. So it's going to be a real interesting matchup. So I would say, first and foremost, blame it on the run game why the Steelers win. James Conner's back. They're going to have to establish some type of run. And I think if they have some success in their run game, then, it could pose a problem for the Bills.
And that's it right there. That's it, Muki. That's all you have to say. It's the run game. That's what it is in this game to me. If the Bills don't stop James Conner, if the Bills can't stop this Steelers offense from not being one-dimensional, then it's over. That's really what it boils down to for me, because that is really truly the only weakness of this Steelers team, in my opinion, is the fact that they are one-dimensional. And I've copped on this platform every single week, twice a week, saying how this team needs to run the ball, that being the Bills. And last week you saw, I thought, the most thorough, complete game plan that we have seen, where both facets of the offense were getting involved and with efficiency. And that's the kind of offense that you can expect on a week-to-week basis if that's the sort of plan. But this week, coming into this game, that's kind of why I had I oozed confidence going into this Steelers game, because I knew they were one-dimensional. And when a team is one-dimensional in the NFL, Alan was talking about it, how they're throwing these short passes to try and extend their running game, use the passing game as an extension to their running game, because they didn't have a running game. They were non-existent. And having Marquise Pouncey back this week, that's big for them. That's their leader up front. That's the guy that's held it down there. He's been in this league forever. I think he's probably been in the league for 10 years now.
Yeah, just about. I think he's
been in the league for 10 years now. So
11. I think he came in the same year with Marcel and those guys.
Yeah, I think you're right. So you have a veteran center coming back on this offensive line. That's only going to help. And it's not like this offensive line has been playing bad by any means. Like Alan said, they're allowing the least amount of sacks per game in the NFL right now. And if the Bills defense can't stop the run, if they're allowing, I'll put a number out. I'll say over 4 yards per carry in this game, then the Bills will lose this game. I think that's what it comes down to, because that offense, when they're multidimensional, my goodness, then they're a Super Bowl contender. Then that's not a fraud 11-0 team. I understand. I said it on the Overtime podcast. That was probably one of the worst. That's probably the worst 11-1 team that I've seen in a really long time, considering the strength of schedule. You can't really control who you play. I understand. We talked about all that last year with who the Bills were playing and their margins of victory, but the Steelers, they haven't beaten anybody this year, and the Bills are really the first true I wouldn't say true competitor, but the first real quality opponent that they get to match up with. And I don't know. It hinges on their rushing attack. It hinges on James Conner. Now, the Bills win if.
The Bills win if they could carry over what they've been doing the past couple of games. I mean, me and you talked a couple of weeks ago how we said that the Chargers game was the most complete game that the Bills played thus far, even though they managed to turn the ball over 3 times in the fourth quarter and still win by 10. We thought they pretty much controlled that game, but going into Monday night, it carried over into Monday night, and you saw a much better, more complete team. And, they went out there and they dominated every facet of the game, from special teams to offense to defense. Everything seemed to click, and you just reiterated the point on how well they played. It was their best game of the season. So if the Bills can duplicate that, then, it's going to be a long day for the Steelers. And the Bills, where I'm getting it is now that the Bills could just run you off the field with their offense. It's like a track meet right now. I think they figured out the short game when teams want to play off of them. I think Josh has figured that one out. The run game is starting to get a little bit more better. We need to see a little bit more of that. I like the inside trap that they did against San Fran. I do like the little wrinkles that you see. Normally we would see Isaiah McKenzie get that little end around, just so predictable when he was getting it. Now they faked it to him, look off, hit him with the little wheel route. So you're starting to see Dable finally set up something that's actually is going to set up the next play. Has he been playing possum, Clay? Has he been playing possum with these? Is keeping these things in his back pocket and unleash them at the right time late in the season, so teams can't really get a read on it or recognize it down, later on down the line. So it seems that the Bills are clicking at the right time and the right point in the season. So that's kind of scary. So if they can duplicate, what they've done on Monday night, then it's going to be a track meet, out there. Steelers ain't going to be able to stop the bleeding.
The Bills are really on the right track. They've been on the right track for the last month, it feels like. It feels like, everything that we were worried about before the bye week hasn't – I wouldn't necessarily say it's been put to bed, but your worries can be put at ease a little more each week as the season's gone on, I felt like. And that's kind of where I'm at with them. You said it yourself. We said after the Chargers game that was their most complete game. And now we say after the 49ers game it's their most complete game. And, that's really been – that was the problem. That was the concern going into the bye week. Where is this complete performance? I want to see this offense humming, and I want to see the defense kind of refine itself. And they have refound themselves, it appears. And on the offensive side of the ball, I agree with you. I think you need to play a complete game in this game. I think that, honestly, you have Avery Williamson in there with a bad back. You have a guy in Marcus Allen who I think, he has some potential. I like Marcus Allen, but he's small. And we've seen this before where the Bills go up against smaller teams. And it wasn't too long ago we talked about this. A smaller team that they played where I don't think they were nearly as strong with the front that they had comparatively. But the Chargers have small linebackers. And their defensive line, they do have Linval Joseph. They do have Jerry Tillery. They did have Joey Bosa. They have some guys. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I could necessarily equate that to Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt and Tyson Awalu and TJ Watt. I'm not sure if that balances out. It's definitely a matchup for this offensive line. It's definitely a test for this offensive line. And seeing how that offensive line handled the 49ers last week, seeing how Ike Bacher looked with that offensive line, my goodness. Hats off to Ike Bacher, who I was very critical of after his first start. And I like making jokes, and people always come back at me whenever I make jokes, because I was making jokes about Tyler Bass. I just like laughing. It's not necessarily me saying this guy sucks. And if I call Ike Bacher, it's just for the comedic aspect of it. But Ike Bacher, he's playing really good ball right now. And I think they finally found their combination with their front five that they like, with the good mix of power and athleticism and mobility. And I think that's what it's all about in this game, is the offensive line. It's about Ike Bacher. It's about Mitch Morse. It's about John Feliciano, Darrell Williams, and Deion Dawkins, all of those guys. That's what it's going to come down to. Whether it's the running game or the passing game, Josh Allen, do I have confidence in Allen when he's getting pressured? Absolutely. but it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for him standing back there if this offensive line can handle one of the best pass rushes in football. I can assure you that. And it's also going to be a lot easier for this offensive line to handle the pass rush if they have an appearance, or not an appearance, but an identity in the running game. If they have some sort of establishment in the run game. And that's what I think it really comes down to. I'm not saying they need to run the ball 30 times in this game with both their young backs. But what I am saying is they need to have a somewhat balanced approach. I'm thinking 60-40. That's what it comes down to for this Bills offense. Because if that defensive line could just pin their ears back, push the pocket from the interior with their big boys, and have T.J. Watt screaming off the edge, that is a losing uphill battle for this Bills offense. Do I think that the Bills offensive line is talented and it's a pretty good group? I do. I'd like to see them string together another solid performance before I really hang my hand on them. This is the front five for them. But they're really kind of running out of combinations at this point in the season, and they want to have a solidified front and have some sort of continuity in order to ride that into the playoffs. And I think they kind of have it with this group, and this game is really going to be a true test to whether or not that's the real front or whether or not they're legit. You know, that could be the guys that they have the rest of the season, or they could just suck. You just don't know. So I think this is a true test for the offensive line in both the rushing attack and the passing attack, and being able to protect Allen and being able to have some sort of identity with the rushing attack. I think Devin Singletary, he's going to have a good game today. I'm so excited to see Zach Moss. So excited to see Zach Moss, because you're talking about a guy who, after he fumbled that ball coming out of the end zone, he had one carry the rest of the game, and it went for a -2. That kid's hungry. He is probably so hungry to play the Steelers right now. And if this offensive line could possibly pave the way and move those big bodies out of the way for these running backs, I think the Bills could have a lot of success going up against those linebackers. I really do. And you and I both know what this offense looks like when they have the running game and the passing game working in synergy, working with one another. Because like you said, we saw Brian Dable calling plays early in the game to set up plays later in the game. And you said, was he playing possum? Well, I don't know if he's playing possum, but I do know that they were on national TV, and I think that had a lot to do with it. I said it on the tailgate. I said it on the Overtime podcast. And, well, the good news is that they're on national TV again this week. So maybe he'll have a couple more tricks up his sleeve ready to show, the prolific offense that I wouldn't say he's built. I'd say Brandon Beane has built. But, hey, he's out there having fun with these guys, and he's calling the plays that he's comfortable with, and he has this offense humming. I think Brian Dable has done an incredible job. I have been critical of him ever since he was hired. I've been critical of Brian Dable, but he has adjusted. He has adapted.
You've been critical of the burglar? How was you critical of the burglar?
No, Brian Dable, not Beane. I was never critical of Brandon Beane. Never. I've asked questions. That's what I'll do. I'll ask questions to stir the pot. I'm not gonna. I can, but I wasn't going to. But Brian Dable, he's done a good job adapting and evolving over the season and fixing and adjusting what really was the Bills' problem. Now it's a matter of building upon that and able to string together consecutive performances as they've done the last couple of weeks. But, this is a huge game. Huge. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the biggest game that they've had in the last 20 years, but, man, Josh Allen in this game, that's what I want to see. I want to see primetime Allen. That's really what – I'm not going to say it comes down to that. It comes down to the Bills' ability to maintain that defensive line from the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think that Josh Allen needs to do in this game in order for the Bills' offense to be successful? Do you think this is going to be a pass-heavy game where he throws for close to 400 or 500? I know you flirt with that number a lot, the 500 number. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but do you think this is a game where he throws all over that Steelers secondary? Because aside from Minka Fitzpatrick, I'm not nervous about it. I'm not scared of that secondary. I'm really not, because I don't see a single guy out there that can hang with Stephon Diggs. And then when I think of that, I don't see anybody that can hang with Cole Beasley neither.
Right. I see a team where you might see 6 DBs out there, something like Bill Belichick in New England try to do. You might see that just on default, just because of the injuries that they have at the linebacker position. So you might see a lot of DBs out there, and what do the Bills do to adjust that? I think they need to run the ball a little bit more. If you start seeing those safeties come down in that box, hey, mouse in the house, what we going to do? We're going to send our guard upstairs, and, there you go. You got that run lane to exploit. But we don't know who's going to be lining up. You know, they it's kind of like baseball, man. They don't let you know until the bitter end who's really starting up front for the Bills, because I don't know if it's by accident, you know, just due to some of the little nagging injuries that happen, you know, up front early on, and, you know, guys getting that continuity, and John Feliciano not starting the season. Now he's back and he's playing now. So Bills have some sort of a great rotation where, you know, they pick their poison. Depends on what type of team they're facing, you know, who's going to get the starting nod. So we don't know who's going to get the starting nod. Do we see Brian Winters back out there? And, you know, they bring Ike Boddicker out, even though Ike Boddicker has had a phenomenal game last week. And, I mean, Ike Boddicker was, you know, one of the top linemen coming out of Iowa, you know, when it was his time. So another steal Brandon Beane has in his arsenal to put in place in the event of someone's not doing their job, or this guy, he's just a scheme fit for that week, you know. So it's going to be real interesting to see who's going to be playing guard for the Bills, more or less. And as far as Josh Allen goes, if he's been locked in, you know what I mean? He's just been locked in ever since that Houston game. I tell everybody, you know, Josh Allen's going to do, he's going to throw for over 60%. Josh Allen's going to throw for well over 3,500 yards. You know, all of that. Now you just see it, and people was like, whoa, this guy's just throwing. I mean, how do you complete 80% of your passes? 4 touchdowns. I mean, just that wicked-ass throw that he threw to Gabe Davis, that 22 yards when he just, you know, that, I don't know what type of wicked spin he put on that, but the pinky carried over, and it was like he was just, he just put that extra zip on it and got it over that linebacker. And Gabe Davis didn't catch that with his hands. He caught that with the body. Like the ball just went like right in the basket, man. Perfect throw. And these are the throws that they saying Josh Allen can't make. I don't know what they're looking out there. I mean, we talking surgery with a chainsaw right now, Clay.
You're gonna get it. You know what? I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't know if it was applicable. We talked about the Ben comparison earlier. We talk about I see people digging up the Kelly comparisons, and it's tiring. It's so tiring. And people, you know, I understand how people get excited, and it's like, we need to compare Josh Allen. We need to find somebody he's like. I think people do that they do that far too often. Everybody does that far too often. Everybody wants somebody to be just like somebody, I feel like. It doesn't, and that's not just in football. It's in every sport. It's in life. People always want to be like, oh, you're just like your brother, or you're just like this. No. With Josh Allen, it's insulting. It really is. I find it insulting. We want to compare him to Kelly. Kelly was a professional quarterback for 3 years before he came to Buffalo. Let's stop it. Come on. Let's stop it. People want to compare him to Ben. Ben never ran like Allen ran, or like Allen runs. And I knew Allen was going to say that, because that's kind of how I felt about it. Allen never had that athleticism. He had that toughness in the pocket to be he's just as tough, if not tougher, to bring down in the pocket. Absolutely. And that way, they're absolutely comparable. But Josh Allen is his own entity. People need to realize that. And the sooner people realize that, the sooner you'll stop being surprised when he has these performances. Because I think it was the one he threw to Foster in his rookie year. That's when I was like, wow, that was different. I've never seen something like that. That was the play where I said, okay, this guy's got some juice. Because I don't like being the definitive on decisions. Say, well, everybody said he sucked, but we're gonna suck. I'm not one of those people. And with Allen, I was just like, all right, let's sit here, let's see how this goes. And I was sitting there, I was seeing how it went, and no, I'm not going to sit here and compare him to anybody. I'm not going to compare him to Kelly. I'm not going to compare him to Roethlisberger or Mahomes. Nobody. Because Josh Allen is his own person. Josh Allen, he could be like Brett Favre. He could be like these guys. But when you remember Josh Allen, I think everybody's going to remember Josh Allen for himself. They're not going to be like, he came in the league and he was like Brett Favre. That's not what they're going to say. People are going to start saying that about guys who come into the league. They're going to say that about guys like Justin Herbert. Oh, he's like Allen. They're going to say that about guys who come in the league moving forward. That's Trevor what it's Lawrence. Going to be.
They're going to say Trevor Lawrence. He's a Josh Allen. Trevor Lawrence.
He's Josh Allen.
Justin Fields is going to be Josh. It's going to be who compares to those two guys. Because right now, those are the only two elite guys, I mean, that's in the league right now. We're not talking about Aaron Rodgers and Breeze and Brady. We're talking about the generation next, Clay.
Find me somebody. Find me somebody who's 6'6", 250 pounds, can run like that guy, can throw like that guy. It's going to complete 8% clip. Find me somebody, because you won't. You won't find anybody like that. Josh Allen is his own special kind of guy. Right. And the sooner you admit that to yourself, and the sooner people start realizing that, like I said, when you turn on these games and you see him throw the ball that you saw him throw to Gabe Davis, you're gonna be like, you're not even gonna be in awe anymore. You're gonna be like, damn, because that's what I did. I was sitting there, I was like, oh, what was that? What kind of extra sauce was that? Because that was something I didn't see before. I feel like what?
I tried to ask him that, man. I couldn't get the question off. I'm still gonna ask him. Nobody has asked him about that throw. Like, come on, man. Nobody asked him about that throw right there. I mean, that's just like when you just know you dealing, man, it's just feeling good. That thing just coming off your hand. You just really controlling the ball that way. I haven't seen a pass like that in a long time. You know what I mean? Nobody's talking about that play, Clay. But I'm definitely I'm gonna shoot the ones with Josh. I'm gonna ask him about that play still. I might ask you tomorrow after the Steelers game about that play.
This is a confident football team. This team is so confident. And you know what? When they lost on a Hail Mary pass, they were just as confident. That just pissed them off. So now they're pissed off and confident. And you see how this team comes out there and they're playing and they play, they fly, they're flying around, they're making plays, they're playing physical, and they're having fun. And Josh Allen has swagger. And, you know, that's really what – I'm not going to say his success hinges on confidence. That he's not one of those players. I feel like, you know, if I say that, people misconstrue or misunderstand what I'm saying to try and compare it to Cam and bring that comparison back into it. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think Allen's success hinges on his confidence. But what I do know is that when Allen's confident, he's flying. When you see him on Monday night, when you saw him on Monday Night Football, did that look like a confident football player to you? That looked like a guy who had all the control in the world. Who had he knew that at the end of the play, he's going to determine what happens with his football and how well it's going to go for his football team. And I think that is the biggest reason why you're seeing a team that's 5-1 in their last 6 games, and the one loss comes on the Hail Mary. And that team would be 0-5 right now if it weren't for that Hail Mary. So put that in comparison as to whether or not, however you try and interpret that. But this is a confident football team. They just had – I'm not going to call it the biggest win. That wasn't surprising to me, seeing them hand the 49ers their rears on national television with a backup quarterback. They did what they needed to do on Monday Night Football. They're going to do what they need to do tomorrow on Sunday Night Football as well, I believe. Do you have any bold predictions?
Bold predictions. You know, I had wrote a story, you know what I mean, West Side Gun. You know what I mean? You go check that out, you know what I mean, on the Power page, Power 96.5, and how he just really torched the NFC West, dude. I mean, we talking almost 1,400 yards. He completed 75% of his passes, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he had a QB rating, man, for like 130 against those 4 teams. That's insane numbers. Those are insane numbers to be playing against probably the best conference in the NFC. To do that, to have that type of success against an NFC opponent in that type of conference speaks volumes to, you know, his how he's evolved, his development, and the way that his confidence is sky high right now. It's not a throw that he believed that he can't make, whether it's on a run or whether it's in the pocket. And the dangerous part about it, he's not asphyxiated on anybody. Stephon Diggs is going to get over 10 targets a game, period. So, but he's not fixated on Steph. You know what I mean? So you see the spread of the love. You don't know what receiver is really going to open it up. You know, it could be Isaiah McKenzie that just opens it up. And now you got to worry about Isaiah McKenzie. Next, you know, Beasley eating. Next, you know, Gabe Davis eating. Then, like I said before, Steph is going to get targeted 10 times a game no matter what. So, you know, Josh right now, his recognition is off the charts, man. And you just got to give the kid credit. You know what I mean? Just get a kid credit, man. At the end of the day, just get a kid credit. If he has another stellar performance against a perennial powerhouse organization as the Pittsburgh Steelers, then go ahead and give that kid his props. You can say that he's one of the front runners in the MVP race, even though I know that's not his mindset. But, you know, the team goes how he goes. And right now, his confidence is sky high. And if he gets to pick apart, if he start recognizing the coverage, it's going to be bad for the Steelers tomorrow, no matter what the weather is, So I like the schedule that the Bills have. It's going to prepare them, down the stretch, because they don't have no lackluster teams, no teams that they will want to play down to their competition. So I like the schedule to get the Bills really battle tested for the playoffs, get them battle tested for New England coming up, because New England is trying to be sneaky on, this is their last thing. If they can't beat the Bills, the season is over for them. So they're trying to be, a little sneaky with what they're trying to do. And, the Bills just got to, stay on point, be focused one game at a time. And, can't wait for them to play for the division. When the division game is on the line in 2 weeks, where the Bills' mindset is going to be, where the confidence level is going to be, and how hungry do they going to really want that division. Brandon Beane talked about, the main thing this year was to win the division, to have that home playoff game for the fans. With COVID, we know that still can possibly happen, but right now it's not happening. But that was their mindset on controlling what you can control, win your division, and you're in. So right now, they're on great pace for that. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to see how hungry they really are on, reclaiming the division, something they haven't done in 20 years. So I like the moxie. I like the mindset. I like where the team, is right now. They're in a good place. Hopefully they can keep this up. And hopefully, they can build with the run game, can build with this. And it's scary, Clay. It's just scary, man. So prediction, you got to still respect the Steelers for what they do in the overall body of work. I think Coach Tomlin is doing a phenomenal job. He's pissed off at those receivers, by the way, because he played receiver at William & Mary, with, Sean McDermott over there trying to check him a little bit at the same damn time. So, it's going to be a tough matchup. I say Bills pull it off 26-20. And, Josh Allen is going to have another solid performance. It's going to be a good game. I think the Bills is to the point where, they don't care about, the Steeler mystique. It's all about their mystique. I think they're going to come out and dictate the terms on offense and defense. Another thing to watch on special teams, you got Tyler Matakevich versus Ray McLeod. You know what I mean? We kind of like swap for special teams guys. Be on the lookout for that. See, how the special teams play, how will they affect tomorrow night's game? You know what I mean? So let's not forget about that. So I think the Bills will pull it off, though, 26-20.
Oh, score. I hate doing this. I
didn't even give you a bold prediction.
No, I'm not talking about picking the Steelers. I'm not going to pick the Steelers. I said the Steelers were going to lose this game a month ago, and I still believe the same way. I do. Do I think if they run the ball on the Bills, that could be problematic? Yeah, I do. But do I ultimately think that this defense has been very opportunistic this last month? They have been very good at creating turnovers when they need to. They've been very good at making plays when they need to. And I think the defense will continue on that trend because for the last month, they've been a confident unit, and that's really what it's been. They're healthy, they're confident, they have their swagger back, and that's why they've been able to make plays. So I'm going to take the Bills, but I do have the Steelers scoring a little more than I initially had. I said on the Overtime podcast just last night, I said the Bills are going to win 27-17. I'm going to give them 6 more points. I'm going to say the Bills are still going to win 27-23. That's what I got. And this is going to be an exciting game, really exciting game. And, I wanted to say this for the end of the show because Brandon Beane got his extension. And, that's not really something I'm going to sit here and be like, whoa, they did it. That's going to happen. That was going to happen, guys. That was going to happen. And, it was kind of weird because I was listening to T.O.'s new podcast, and I don't know if a lot of people know that he has his own podcast now, Terrell Owens and Hatch. He had Randy Moss on his show. I'm not sure if it was a couple days or a couple weeks ago. I found a clip on YouTube, and I was watching it. It was Moss and T.O., and they were talking back and forth. And the intrigue I had in it was Moss and T.O. were really talking about what it was like being a part of a team, what it was like being a part of, the way they equated it was oftentimes when you walk into an NFL locker room, it's a lot like work. when you go to work, the way they made it, they simplified it was, how many guys at work do you exchange phone numbers with and you're tight with outside of work, outside of when you punch that clock? That's the way they kind of, simplified it for regular people and what it's like in an NFL locker room. And Randy Moss elaborated that he never felt like he was really a part of a team and he couldn't just focus on football until he was in New England. And anytime you talk about New England, you think about that culture. You think about the foundational attitude that they established in that building and how they treat their players and how, I wouldn't necessarily say they're a tight-knit group, but what I can say is the only franchise I can kind of compare it to is the Bills. Right now, what they've done with McDermott, what they've done with Brandon Beane, what they're doing with Josh Allen. That's the only comparison to be made, really. And, when Randy Moss said that, a guy who was in the league at that point for 7 or 8 years, and he didn't feel like he was really a part of a team until that point of his career, that just goes to show you how important that is in a locker room. That goes to show you how important that is in the work atmosphere in the Professional Football League. And it goes a long way to not just success, but sustained success. And that's what, the Bills have had more sustained success these last 4 years than they've had in the last 20. So you're talking about a football team that when Sean McDermott came in, when Brandon Beane came in, they completely changed the complexion of this organization. They flipped it on its head. And, there's certain players that I'm not going to get into that because that's beyond the point. But there's certain things that those two did that, really changed it changed the world for the Buffalo Bills. It changed the world for that organization and the Pagulas and everything they did. So that to me is really important. The culture, the whole process. There was a time where I was one of the people that questioned it. Screw the process, get some damn talent. That was always the line because it wasn't proven. It was more as speak. And now you're seeing it come to fruition these last handful of years. And Brandon Beane getting that extension, it was a must move. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. And it's awesome seeing this team come together the way they have the last couple of years. And those guys are tight knit in that locker room. Obviously, I'm not in that locker room. I can't say that all 53 dudes are 53 best friends. That's never going to be the case in any atmosphere. But it seems like that crew, they're tight. They all have that one common goal in mind. And it seems like, everything that they practice, they preach, or everything they preach, they practice. And, a lot of it is because of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane. And, those two being here and locked up for a long time until 2025, I believe. Well, the next person to be locked up for that long is going to be Josh Allen. Well, yeah, it's a good thing going forward. This is a huge game tomorrow night. I can't wait. A whole day of football and then a Sunday night game. It's not Christmas, but it's like it feels like it. It feels like it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun night.
Yeah, it's gonna be, it's gonna be quite the night, man. And the good thing about this is they're gonna be on prime time again. When you win on prime time, you get the luxury on being on it again. So, they already took care of Monday night. So, we're gonna see the Bills again Monday night. And I know they're gonna put on a good show tomorrow night to be on it again, and then they still have 2 more games, pending with that. So it's just a shame that the fans don't get the opportunity. To have a home game on a national stage, so the whole world can get a glimpse of what Bills Mafia really is, from seeing them inside the stadium during the games with their signage and all the super fans. It's a lot of crazy, insane fans that's inside that place, man. And that's the heart and soul of the team. And just for them not to get that experience to embrace it with the players is just, I just want to strangle COVID right now. But you can blame COVID for pretty much the band of brotherhood that these guys have, I think, got really close, because it's just them. They can't really function out in society due to COVID. So, they have each other, and they rely on each other. They can be around each other a little bit more. So I think that's another thing too. When you go into the summertime and that bond that the offense had down there in Miami just kind of just carried all the way over, and it got contagious with the defense too. Next, those guys has been working out. They've been working out ever since then. So just to have that continuity and that trust, and to see them reap the benefits right now of that hard work they put in during the off season, it's just a testament to the coaching staff on what they embed in those players to go out and get the job done. what really matters. You know, what's your purpose? You know what I mean? So it's just a good job by, you know, McDermott and Bean changing the culture. I had the opportunity to ask Dion after practice on Friday how comfortable it is to know that, you know, hey, you put in the work, you get rewarded. You know, you see guys like yourself getting contract extensions. You see Trey White getting contract extensions. These guys are drafted. You see your head coach get extended. You see the general manager get extended. You know, how refreshing and how comfortable does that make the guys in the locker room? And, you know, he went on to say that something like this that's happening right now, you don't happen that often. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a lunar eclipse, and it comes around every 75 to 100 years, where that this is kind of like a match made in heaven, where, you know, man, you know, here come new coach, here come general manager, get rid of all the bad apples, still make the playoffs. You know, you're going to have that learning curve in year two. Bring your franchise quarterback in. After that, go get him in the line. After that, go get him, you know, the rest of the skill position players. And this is what you have right now. You know, you bring your coaches with a defensive guy. So it's for all of this to just like happen, trust the process. And, you know, as Bills fans, we like, oh, here we go. Another process to wait for. When is this going to happen? And you just see it happen before your eyes. The past 2 out of 3 years, they've made the playoffs. And right now, you know, after tonight, we're going to know if the Bills are a legitimate Super Bowl contender, not playoff contender, Super Bowl contender. You know what I mean? If you want to, you know, be able to compete with the big bad wolves of the Tennessee Titans and the Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, and the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to beat those guys. And this, you know, late in the season, you know, it gets the Bills to be motivated to say this is their statement game on another national platform. You know, so we're going to see how eager and motivated these guys it is to protect that house, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, you know, move on to Denver. So right now it's just unbelievable. You know what I mean? It's just like unbelievable. It's to give you that numb feeling, that excitement that, you know, something special is bound to happen this year. If these guys can keep this thing up, Clayton, you know what I mean, this can go down as one of the best seasons in Bills history. Who knows? But, hey, they got to take it one game at a time. And right now that game is the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday night. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be a game. It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch this game. It's gonna be a lot of fun to kind of see how it plays out. See Josh Allen on Sunday Night Football. A lot to be excited about if you're a Bills fan. You know, regardless of how this game goes, you know, there's a lot for people to be excited about. And obviously it starts with this game tomorrow. You know, I'm excited to see how this team comes out. I'm excited to see how excited they are, you know, eager they are to play this game because, you know, they know how big of a moment this is, not just for themselves, not just for this team, but for the organization. You know, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, we could talk about the Steelers being a fake 11-0 team or a fake 11-1 team or whatever. Point is, you're playing one of the 1B to the New England Patriots. That's what they are these last 20 years. They are the 1B to the New England Patriots in my mind because that's one of the most successful sports franchises in all of sports, not just football, all of sports. You know, you talk about the longevity and the thorough history that they have success. That's a big-time franchise. And anytime you beat a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going to earn that win. And the Bills will prove a lot if they manage to win this game tomorrow. I believe they will. You know, that's the belief that I have in this team, but time will tell and we'll see. Muki, where can they find you? What do they have to look forward to? It's always there's always content. You're always doing something. You're always on someone's stuff. Where are you? Where can they find you? What do they have to look forward to when they do?
Man, I'm on the best tailgate on Saturday night right here with Cold Front, man. That's where you can find me. You know what I mean? Every Saturday night, we keep it exclusive with the best insight that you could get from a Bills and a Bills opponent every Saturday. You always can catch me Sunday, Power 96.5, the Waffle Sports Report at 6 o'clock, giving you exclusive interviews with players and coaches after the game. You can always catch me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Waffle Sports. You know what I mean? I'm your guy and holla at your boy. And let's see. I don't know. Twitter world, we might have to get a few people to break some tables, man. You know what I mean? We might have to give away a jersey or something. You know, we got to do something you know what I mean, to get prepared for Sunday night. So all you fans, if you're listening, if you got a table out there, hey man, find somebody and throw it on them. You know what I mean? Videotape it, man, and we might send you out a jersey, but we got to give the whole world on Sunday night something that the fans do, something that the whole world will want to see. So, hey, let's see it, man. If I find me a table, I might videotape me slamming myself or something on the table. I want to see a table broke. I haven't seen a table broke all year, Clay. Can somebody give me that for Christmas tomorrow?
Mario Granado went through a table.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I think that he's still on the table right now nursing the injury. That's why he couldn't make it today. But, Mario, we miss you. We hope you get well. I know how it is when it rains. You know what I mean? That soreness kind of come back to you.
Mario, he had to miss the show tonight, but I personally think he's hiding because the Bills are about to get their 10th win, and he predicted them to go 9-7. So that's just me. But when you go to find Muki, be sure to follow the Cold Front Report. We're on Twitter, Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. That's at Cold Front Report on Twitter, at Cold Front Report _ Bills News on Instagram, and Buffalo Bills Cold Front Report on Facebook. YouTube, just Cold Front Report. Be sure to check out our webpage, the state-of-the-art webpage we recently had redone. It looks amazing, guys. The content coming out on there is www.coldfrontreport.com. If you'd like to find me, I'm on Twitter at CFRCLAYTON, and then on Instagram, it's the same exact handle at CFR Clayton. Thank you all for watching. Muki, it's always a pleasure, man. Can't wait to come back here. Oh, they got a Saturday game next week, so we'll shake it out on Friday night next week. We'll see what we can have going.
Friday night, we see what we got rocking. But then again, everybody, man, break a table tonight. All right, I want to see it. I need a birthday wish. All right, somebody break a table so NBC can show the world what Bills Mafia do for games, please. All right, that'd be a great Christmas gift. You know what I mean? So hey, I catch y'all all tomorrow. Good night. Wash your hands.